Guitar intervals, C major, A minor, and related modes. This time looking at the B Locrian mode, focusing on centering from, measuring around the B note located 4th string down from the top of the guitar, fret number 4, and this is part number 3. Remembering one of our major objectives is to get all of our resources orientated in the same direction, making them as easy on the eyes from the perspective of the player of the guitar as possible. The player of the guitar located behind the guitar. Therefore, for example, it's going to look like my guitar is being played left-handed, but no, we just flipped it around to mirror what you are doing from behind your guitar as though you were playing into a mirror. And when we are behind the guitar, we've got the fretboard on our left-hand side, the low or heavy string on top, left to right towards the body of the guitar. Similarly orientated will be our Excel worksheet, where the top of the worksheet here, this E, represents the low or heavy E string, the one on top, the one closest to the ceiling, top to bottom, left to right orientated, as though we just took our guitar and imprinted those strings on the screen. We're continuing on with the Locrian mode, measuring around this B note, remembering that a lot of people just skip the Locrian mode when they're thinking about these types of intervals. But I think it's really useful to look at it because although you're not possibly going to be playing in Locrian mode, although you can try to do it, it's kind of fun to play around with, you still need it for chord construction because that's going to give you that tension note that leads back oftentimes to like the 1 if you're in a major scale. So you still need it because you don't want to just lose that note as something that you could build a chord from. So let's do a quick recap on how all these things are related. And also just remember that as we look through all these kind of modes, we want to see that they're all related, right? They're all tied together. They're all part of the same kind of thing. And therefore, again, Locrian mode is just one of the modes it's useful to look at. It's going to be building the same shape. So if I go up top, how do we do this? We're starting with the major scale because that's just a convention in Western music, but we're typically going to be building it around this shape, which is possibly the most popular shape in this area of the guitar, which a lot of people call position number 1 from a pentatonic 5-note position. Would look like that. Adding the 2 other notes to make it 7 notes. It looks like that. If you play it from this A, you're basically playing a minor scale, however, and we can just basically start from any other note and play from that note to that note, making any other note the tonic, and that would make any of the other notes basically the related modes that we would be playing in. And it's useful to be thinking about, theory-wise, the major scale as our point of reference, our key of reference, and that's just a convention, which possibly most likely came from, playing on the piano, which seems to be kind of orientated towards, the C major kind of idea. So it's just useful to use that as our convention. So we're basically going to think about how we can build the shape 3 different ways. We can actually just learn the shape, which oftentimes people break the guitar up into 5 shapes and then they learn each shape, which is great. Or we can break it up into 3-note per string shape or 2-note per string shape. All that is great. Love it because that works kind of like an Excel worksheet, and that's beautiful. Excel worksheets are great. So if you can make the guitar look like an Excel worksheet, man, that's like Christmas. That would be great. That would be wonderful. But you can also learn it with the formula, like whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, and that kind of thing, which I haven't spent as much time on, but I'm working on something. I'm mulling this over to get a better appreciation of that method on how we can map it out on the guitar, which isn't exactly linear, to get a better idea of that. Because if you think about it from that perspective, I've been thinking that it really emphasizes just 2 types of intervals, a whole step and a half step, a minor second and a major second, if you want to think about it that way. So that means that if you know where you are in the scale, then you can just think about those 2 intervals really. And so I'm mulling that out. I think I'm going to make a project on that. So look forward to that. It'll be great. But the intervals are going to be quite useful because we can measure from any point and think about the intervals from that point, which basically means we're going to construct the same shape from a different central point. That's very useful because those intervals are also things that we can use to define our our chords. So we need those interval constructions. So how do we get that? Usually we look at the intervals for the major scale, and then we compare possibly the main minor to the major scale, which is the Aeolian. I'm going to go through this more quickly because I know we saw this in the prior two presentations as well. This is just a recap. So the Aeolian is the minor scale, so I can compare that to the major scale, where you would think all of the majors would be flipped to minors, and the perfect would be the same, which is the case except for the minor, except for the second, where the main minor, Aeolian, the minor scale, still has a 2-note away major second, doesn't have a minor second. Now, there is one that does have a minor second, and that's the Phrygian. So the Phrygian is actually more minor than the main minor, the minor scale, otherwise known as the Aeolian. And then the Locrian is the one that we're focused on, actually more minor than the main minor, plus it's got the crazy flat fifth. So that's how I would basically kind of put the Locrian into play. So what do we want to do? We want to be able to see all the notes that are in a scale. We would like to be able to build a chord from every note in the scale, not just in the major scale, but from the perspective of any other mode: Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, and so on. How could we do that? Well, if I know all the notes in the scale, I know that I usually can just add a fifth at least, which is called a power chord, to all of the notes except the funny one, which is the one we're kind of focused on now, the seventh of the major scale, which is the you can call it the Locrian note, right? In the scale, in which case it has a flat fifth. So that's useful. Then I want to be able to add the third, which means I've got to somehow memorize that for example, major relative positions 1, 4, 5 have major chord constructions, 2, 3, 6 have minor chord constructions, and then the 7 again is that oddball out. That's the one we're focused in on here, which still has kind of like a minor chord construction from the perspective of the third because it has a minor third. Now, I would like to be able to go beyond doing it just on the major scale and also be able to look at all the notes from the position of a Dorian and know which of all of these notes should be constructing a major third and a minor third, major chord, minor chord. How could I do that? Well, if I start to memorize the relative modal positions to the major scale, that's one way we can do it, which is why I'm going to number the modes based on the major scale. And that could at least allow me to kind of figure out what the relative position is on the major scale, which will help me because I know that the 1, 4, 5 of the major scale has a major third, the 2, 3, and 6 has the minor third. So that's one thing we can do there. And then I would also like to know not just the 1, 3, 5, but the 7, 9, 11, and 13, the 9, 11, 13 being equivalent to the 2, 4, and 6, the even notes that are skipped. How could we know that? To know that, you're going to need to know, in essence, the modes, the intervals for each of the modes to know whether or not you're adding a 7, 9, 11, and 13 that's still in the same key. So that means, how can I learn the intervals? Well, if I can compare the 4 and the 5 modes, the chords that can be constructed off of the 4 and the 5, in this case the F and the G, to the Ionian modes, and there's only going to be one interval difference. So, and then I can compare the minor modes, the Dorian and the Phrygian, to the Aeolian, and there's only going to be one interval difference. And then we're left again with this Locrian that we just keep ignoring, which is kind of like a minor mode, right? I would think of it as a minor mode, and this is going to be important because it gives you that tensiony note. So then it's like, okay, but what happens when I hit this, in this case, the B? What happens when I hit that? I can't do anything with it because I've completely ignored it in terms of how I'm going to build a chord. I can't even put a fifth on it, right? Because it doesn't even work for a power chord. So we have to know that because we want to do something with it, right? We want to build a chord on it if we're making a song progression. We don't want to just drop the note generally, or you could, but so that means, so my story would be, how am I going to remember the intervals for the Locrian? My story would be, well, it's kind of like a minor mode. So like the Aeolian is the main minor. So that's like obviously the Ionian is the cool kid, right? Because they're like the major scale, and that's like all of Western music. So they're like the most famous one everybody plays and the major scale. And then you've got the hanger-ons to the major scale, which are the Lydian and the Mixolydian. But the Mixolydian kind of does its own thing because it's kind of like more of the minor thing because it has the flat 7, so it's kind of doing its own thing. But then you've got the minor modes, which are darker, man. They're like, whatever, I'm like gonna be like more darkish. And that the main minor is the Aeolian, which is the minor scale, which is the 6th. But then like Phrygian, and then the Dorian is like, that's too dark, you know? And the Dorian's like, I'm gonna add an interval that still has another major interval to lighten it up a little bit. So it's kind of like trying to be cool between the majors and the minors and still have like some major elements, but still be cool with like both groups, you know? But then the Phrygian is like, dude, I'm going way minor, and it's because even the Aeolian isn't minor enough. So the Phrygian actually took that 2-note away major second and made it into a 1-note away minor second. So it's even more minor than the main minor. And then the Locrian is like the Phrygian, more minor than the main minor, but it also has a flat 5th. It went crazy with a flat 5th. Nobody does that. But they did it, except the Lydian kind of does it, but it has an augmented 4th, which is the same interval, but we're talking flat 5th here, and nobody does that because everybody has a power chord. Like, you don't even have a power chord, dude. You don't even have a power chord. And so that's going to be the story. So if I look at the major scales, we have a perfect 4th, a 2-note away major 2nd, a 4-note away major 3rd, a 5-note away perfect 4th, the 7-note away perfect 5th, the 9-note away major 6th, the 11-note away major 7. So what would we expect from a Locrian mode, which is basically more minor than the main minor, the Aeolian minor scale, and has a crazy flat 5th? Well, we would assume all the perfects would be the same except for the crazy flat 5th. That's the really standout change. And we would expect all the majors to be converted to minors, even the 2nd. And that's what we have. So if I scroll down to the Locrian, we're going to say, what are the intervals? It has a perfect 1st. Of course, they all do. We have a 1-note away minor 2nd. That's the one that's different than the main minor, which still has a major 2nd. And the Locrian, like the Phrygian, is like, no, I'm going total minor here, total minor. And then it's got a 3-note away minor 3rd, which to me would mean it's a minor mode because it has a minor 3rd, and the 3rd is typically the thing that defines whether it's minor or not. It's got a 5-note away perfect 4th. That's the one that's normal, that all of the modes have a perfect 4th, except for the Lydian that has the augmented 4th, which is actually the same distance as the 6-note away diminished 5th. So this is the weird one. It flattened the 5th. Nobody flattens the 5th. That's what makes the Locrian loco. And then it has an 8-note away minor 6, which is normal for a minor mode, except for the Dorian. That's the one that the Dorian tries to be cool with, the like in between the two groups by having a major 6. And then it has a 10-note away minor 7, which is normal for a minor mode. Okay, so that's the idea. So we're going to be here on the funny one now, which is the 6-note away. This is diminished or flattened 5th, right? So the 5th is the power chord kind of construction where you usually see a shape like this. Right, where you get like the rock and roll kind of thing where you can kind of just make a chord out of anything, but then you flatten it and you get that shape. Now that's going to mess up your whole thing when you're trying to just mess around with the power chords. But notice you still have the perfect 4th like that, right? Even though the 4th isn't in a normal chord because the 4th is equivalent to the 11, right? And you've got the 3rd, the minor 3rd, when you get to that B. So those are kind of your options without hitting the 5th. And then if you hit the 5th, then you're going to have like that tensiony 5th. I'm doing it from the A, not from the B here, just so you know, if I was on the B, right there, right? So, and that's going to, but if you get that, so that's going to be kind of like the idea. So that's going to be it. So it's going to be a 6-note away diminished 5th. Now the thing that's really interesting about this interval is that it's 6 notes away, which is right in the middle, right? There's 12 notes. So we're like right in the middle of the 6 notes away. So that means when I'm going around the circle and say what's the inverse distance, it's still 6 notes away. So if I'm on the other side of the circle and I'm like going around a lap and it's a 12-note circle, 12 mile or foot or whatever track, and I'm all the way like halfway around it, it doesn't matter which way I go, it's going to be 6 steps or whatever, right? That's kind of an interesting interval. So that's going to be where we are. So this 5 over here represents the 5th position. This number 6 right here represents that it's 6 notes away rather than the normal 7 notes away, and it's an odd position here. So when I count up, it goes to 1, 3, 5. It's still the same. It's the 5th. That would be talking about from a chord construction standpoint. All right, so let's go ahead. It would be 6 notes up, so that's just out of reach if I was on the same string, but I can't really do the inverse distance because it would still be 6 notes back, which would also be out of reach. It'd be usually easier to reach up this way because the frets are smaller. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So right there. So it goes. Well, all right, it's kind of a funky sound. So we have it up there on the 10th fret. Let's go above it now. So let's go, say we go above it. Now, when I go above, normally I have to look for the inverse distance, right? So if it's a 6 note away diminished, diminished or flat 5th, 12 minus 6 is still 6, right? There is the inverse is the same. That's the thing. So if I go up, it's going to be 5 or -5 and then 6. So if I go up from this B, -5 and then 6. So if I went from top to bottom, F to B, that's still a flat 5th, right? And if I go from B to F, that's a flat 5th. So in other words, so see how that's kind of weird? It's like it's the inverse of itself, right? Because if I measure from F to B, that is 6 notes away, which I can call a flat 5th. And if I measure from B to F, that also is 6 notes away. It's a flat 5th. So whether I measure from this is my focal point or tonic or this is my focal point or tonic, I get the same interval because I'm halfway around the circle either way, right? It's the same distance either way. All right, so that means that if I go up 1 string, the 6 note away flat 5th is going to be 1 fret back unless I cross the fault line, which would only happen on the B string, in which case if I go up, it's going to be a longer distance because the starting point has been shifted up due to the tectonic plate moving to the right. So the rule is, if I go up 1 string, the 6 note away diminished 5th is going to be 1 fret back unless I cross the fault line, which only happens on the B string, in which case if I go up 1 string, the 6 note away diminished 5th will be 2 frets back. I'm going to try to do this a little bit faster so we can get through 3 of these here. So it's a little ambitious, especially with the longer intro. Why did I do such a long intro? This was it's the 3rd time. All right, anyway. Let's go up 2 strings. So if I go up 2 strings, usually I have to look for the inverse distance but the inverse distance of 6 note away diminished 5th is 12 minus 6, which is still 6. So it's 6 distance. So it's going to be -5, -10, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. So let's do that. We're going to go from here, -5, -10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Boom, boom. So top to bottom from the F to the B, 6 note away. Diminished 5th or augmented 4th if you want to say it that way, bottom to top. Also 6 note away, diminished 5th. Okay, interesting. So that means that if I go up 2 strings, the 6 note away diminished 5th will be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets up. Now note, it might be useful just to note where it's a flattened 5th. So that means that normally the 5th would be up here, right? It would be, right? So you might say that the 5th that we've looked at a lot has been like out here, because that would be a normal, 5th, which would have a 5th would be a 7 note away, a 7 note away perfect 5th, which would have an inverse distance of 7 minus 12, which would be 5 notes away, and we're flattening it, right? So we're flattening it. So that's going to be that one, and so that means that if I go up 2 strings, the 6 note away diminished fifth will be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets forward, unless I cross the fault line, which would happen on these 2 strings. If I was on, for example, this B, and I went up 2 strings, it's going to be a tighter distance because, once again, this fault line pushed the starting point up. So that means if I go up 2 strings, the 6 note away diminished fifth will be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets forward, unless I cross the fault line, which would happen on the bottom 2 strings, the B and the E string, in which case if I go up 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 6 note away diminished fifth will only be 3 frets forward. Okay, let's go up to the next one. Up here, so we're going to say, okay, let's go up to there. So we're going to say, if I go up 3 strings, it's going to be 5, negative 10, negative 15. 15 minus 12 is 3. And then I'm going to say 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going to go up. Now remember, if it was not a flat fifth, where would I be? It would be right here. And then we flattened it, moved it back. And so if it was a normal fifth, it would be there. Why? Because it would be a 7 note away perfect fifth, and 12 minus 7 would be 5. So it would be 5, 10, 15, 15 minus 3, 15 minus 12 is 3, 4, 5. That would be the normal place. And then we flattened it back 6, right? So let's count it up this way. This is going to be 5, 10, 15. 15 minus 12 is 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. So top to bottom, from this F to this B, is that tensiony 6 note away diminished fifth. Also, if I go from the bottom, from the B to the F, also 6 note away diminished fifth. Okay, so let's go below the note. Now when I go below the note, I happen to be right on the place where the fault line is. So if I go down 1 string, I'm going to go across the fault line. This is the only string, the G string, in which case I would go down 1 string and cross the fault line. All other strings, which I have the ability to go down 1 string, if I'm not including going around the top of the guitar, means that I'm not going to cross the fault line. So this is the exception to the rule. So if I go down 1 string, it's going to be this way, diagonal would be 5 and then 6. So it looks like a normal position for a normal fifth, but that's because we crossed the fault line. So it'd be 5 and 6. So, but if I was anywhere else, including on this tectonic plate here, then you have the shape that would be most familiar. There's the shape like that, and there's the shape like that. So normally the rule would be, this is the most common shape we would think about when we think about a diminished fifth, because normally we would think that the normal fifth would be out here, right? So if I'm playing from this B, for example, you would expect the normal fifth to be here. That would be a power chord, 7 note away perfect fifth, and then we flattened it to a 6 note away diminished fifth. So you see how much different that is? You have a much more intense kind of a sound with the diminished fifth, which only naturally occurs on one of the notes in the scale, no matter what mode you're in, right? It happens on that this Locrian note, right? The Locrian chord within any of the scales. So we ended up with that here. So that the rule would be then that if I go down 1 string, the 6 note away diminished fifth will only be 1 fret forward instead of 2 frets forward, unless I cross the fault line, which only happens on the G string, in which case, if I go down 1 string, the 6 note away diminished fifth will be 2 frets forward. All right, let's go down 2 strings and wrap this up down 2 strings. So now I'm going to go, this is going to be 5 this way, 10, I'm looking for a 6 note away, diminished fifth, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. So let's do it from here. So we got here, this is going to be 5, and then 10, 9876. So from here to here to that F. So if I go down 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 6 note away diminished fifth will be 1, 2, 3 frets back. If I don't cross the fault line, which would happen if I'm on either the E or the A string, let's take a look at that. If I was up here and I went down 2 strings, it would be back here. That's going to be the normal kind of shape. I'm sorry, yeah, but if I flattened it, I mean, this would be the normal one, right? And this is, hopefully this shape looks like, you can see that that's going to be our, if I was building this off of the B, that would be a B minor type of shape. The 1, 3, 5 would be here. But because this is the Locrian one, it's back here. So that's going to be, so you get this really spread out type of shape if you're doing the 1, 3, 5 normally up here. So that means that if I go down 2 strings, normally the 6 note away diminished fifth will be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets back unless I cross the fault line, which would happen on either the D or the G string, in which case if I go down 2 strings, the 6 note away diminished fifth will be 1, 2, 3 frets back. Normally normally the fifth would be here, right? So if this was a normal B minor, that would be your shape. It would be here, the 1, 3, 5. But because it's the Locrian, we're building off the Locrian, the 5 gets flattened. So notice that if you're trying to play something normal that's not going to sound totally tensiony, and you hit that B, you could play the 1 and the 3, right? Or the 1 and the 3 this way, up here, and not include the flat 5, and you'd still be okay. Or you can play the 1, the B, and the perfect 4th instead of the perfect 5th, ignoring the crazy note. So it's not like you have to totally ignore the B if you're writing a song, right? If you don't want that super tensiony sound, you don't have to include the 5th, right? You could still kind of get the flavor of like a minor with a 3rd, or you can add 2 notes with the 4th, and so on. You just don't play the 5th, and you'll come up with something that's like not completely out of whack or completely harsh, or tensiony. Okay, so then that's going to be that one. So next we'll go to the minor 6, which is back to kind of more of a normal interval, although again we're on a new string, so we've revealed a new string up top, so we have something new happening there. But let's do a quick joke first, and then we'll move on. All right, scammers. This scammers, man. I'm telling you. Just yesterday, a company tried to sell me on getting debt free. They wanted to sell me on getting debt free, and I was like, I don't care how cheap the debt you want to sell me is. I mean, I don't want it. No, thank you. No, thank you. I already have lots. I've got lots. I don't care if it's free. I don't want to buy debt. I mean, honestly, what kind of company tries to sell you like debt like that? It's ridiculous. You wouldn't think it'd be a very profitable business model, but I'm betting the dang company was probably contracting with the federal government for the last 4 years or something, in some kind of collusion, getting money from the Fed. That's what I'm thinking, until Elon Musk and Doge showed them the door. Honestly, what in the world have my tax dollars been funding for the last few years? For my entire life, I feel like it's ridiculous. It's just and the longer funded. And once they stop giving money to these companies, like the no longer funded government money sucking leech of an organization was probably like, you can't fire us. You need us to sell people free debt or the country will fall apart. It's not just that we sell. We also do we do other important things. We also fund trips to Alaska to mine ice out of the glaciers so that we have ice for our cocktails, because it saves jobs, man. It saves jobs for those people we send out there, other than making, and And our cocktails taste better when we know at least 3 miners died during the mining process. It's just like when we do paperwork. Like when we do paperwork, we keep the jobs by having people actually cut the tablets out of the mines and then scribe the information on the tablets. That saves jobs, man. And like I say, it's anyways, and I'm with Elon Musk on this one, saying I think we'll do just fine without you. Thank you very much. Just fine without you. X seems to be moving along beautifully, I must say. Much better than before. Please stop gluing your hand to the tampon dispenser that's currently in the boys' bathroom. It's not going to stop us from cutting the waste here. By waste, I mean you, because we're throwing that dang dispenser out as well. It's not going to stop us. You can keep it. You can keep the dispenser. Good luck finding a new job with a tampon dispenser glued to your hand. Anyways, let's go to the next one. All right, moving on to the next one. We're going to try to get through these a little bit more quickly here, hopefully. So we've got the 6th. So this is an 8-note away minor 6. So the minor 6 represents the 6th position. And the 8 notes away means how far of a distance we're talking about. And this is a minor 6, which is normal for like a minor mode, which I consider the Locrian to kind of be a minor mode. So it's got a minor 6 in it. So, but it's a 6, and when we do chord constructions, you know, when they do chords, they don't like the evens. So we don't have a 6. It got skipped. So we got 1, 3, 5, and then it goes to 7, which is the last note in our scale. And then instead of calling it a 2, they call it a 9, so that we could still do business with them. And then we go to an 11, and then we go to, and instead of a 4, and then a 13. So from a chord construction standpoint, we can't call it a 6, or else the DEI department will not let you construct a chord with it, because they have even numbers have been banned. They are too boring for chord construction, we have determined, and therefore possibly if the 6 identifies as an odd number, in this case a 13, then possibly they could be employed in some cases under the regulations. So that's what we do here. So it's going to be an 8-note away minor 6 or an 8-note away minor 13 from a chord construction standpoint. All right, so let's do this. So it's going to be 8 notes away. That's too far to reach going this way. So 8, let's go to the inverse distance. 8 minus 12 is 4. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 going backwards. That was tough math right there, and I'm an accountant, for crying out loud. But this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 goes to the open G. So if I went from G to B, that would be a 4-note away major third. But if I go from if I went from G to B, 4-note away major third, from B to G, that would be an 8-note away minor 6. So the inverse of a minor is a major. Inverse of a major is a minor. So the inverse of this 8-note away minor 6 is a 4-note away major third. Okay, let's go above it and look for the G up top. Gee whiz, where are you? So we're going to say if I go up 1, looking for an 8-note away minor 6, I have to look for the inverse distance, which is 12 minus 8 or 4. So there's -5 going up 1 string and then 4. Boom. So let's go up here. We're going to go -5 and then 4. So if I went from the G to the B, that would be, stop apologizing. I'm not going to apologize anymore. That's how they get you. You got to just keep it rolling. I'm going to say if you go from the G to the B, it's going to be a 4-note away major third. But if you go from the bottom to the top, the B to the G, it's going to be then an 8-note away minor 6. So if I go up 1 string, the 8-note away minor 6 is 1 fret forward unless I cross the fault line, which only happens on the B string. So if I was on the B string, it would be right there. So that means that if I go up 1 string, The 8 note away minor 6, which we can also call the 8 note away minor 13, is going to be 1 fret forward unless I cross the fault line, which only happens on the B string, in which case if I go up 1 string and cross the fault line, the 8 note away minor 6, which could also be called the 8 note away minor 13. If they want to be employed, that's what they'll identify as a chord. If they want to be in this chord group, that's what you're going to be called, dang it. And then then it'll be on the same fret. All right, let's go up 2 strings. Let's go up 2 strings, and this is going to be 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 6 frets forward. This is the longest distance stretch. So if I go up 2 strings, it's going to be -5, -10, 9, 8. Well, I'm looking for let's do this. Think about it here. I'm looking for an 8 note away minor 6. The inverse distance is 12 minus 8, or 4 notes away. This is going to be -5, -10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Let's count it out this way. So looking for a 4 note away distance, -5, -10, -5, -10, and then 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. So that's just out of reach because that's 6 notes away, so it's right in the middle because there's 12 notes. So if I'm going 6 notes distance this way, it would also be 6 notes distance behind it if I had enough frets to get there. If I went from this G to the B, that then would be a 4 note away major third, and therefore from B to G is a 6 note away minor 6. Therefore, if I go up 2 strings, the 6 note away minor, the 8 note away minor 6, which could also be called the 8 note away minor 13, 6 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which would happen on either the B or the E string, the bottom 2 strings, in which case if I went up 2 from there, it would be here, closer distance, a little bit easier to reach in that case because this whole tectonic plate shifted to the right. So the rule is, if I go up 2 strings, then the 8 note away minor 6, which could also be called the 8 note away minor 13, is 6 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which happens on the bottom 2 strings, the B and the E string, in which case if I go up 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 6 note away minor 6, which could also be called, the 8 note away minor 6, which could also be called the 8 note away minor 13, will be 5 frets forward. Makes perfect sense. Clear as can be. Let's go up top, clear as can be. Just like that ice that was drilled from Alaska to put in my cocktail that they put in. There we go. There we go. Let's go up 3. Let's go up 3 strings. We're looking for the 8 note away minor 6. If we go above the note, we've got to take the inverse distance. 12 minus 8 is 4. So 4 is the distance we're looking for. This is going to be -5, -10, -15, 15 minus 12, because there's only 12 notes, is going to be 3. And so it's going to be 3, -3, -4, 5, and 6. Wait a second here, que paso. Let me do that again. I'm on the wrong note. That's the wrong note, idiot. Just because it's yellow doesn't mean that's where you go. You get attracted by the bright colors. Yes, I get attracted. I'm like a moth. I get attracted by the bright color, okay? Sometimes the flashy light makes me want to go there. This is going to be -5, 10, 15. 15 minus 12 is 3, and then 4. Boom. Makes perfect sense. All right, so now let's do it from here. -5, -10, -15, and then 15 minus 12 is 3, and then 4. So if I went from the G to the B, that would be a 4 note away major third. If I go from the B to the G, that would be an 8 note away minor 6. So if I go up 3 strings, the 8 note away minor 6 then which could also be called the 8 note away minor 13, will be 1 fret back unless I cross the fault line, which would happen on the B or the E string, in which case, for example, if I was on this B and I go up 3 strings, 1, 2, 3, it's going to be back here. Now it's a further distance because this tectonic plate shifted to the right, making that root note shift to the right. So the rule is, if I go up 3 strings, then the 8 note away minor 6, which could also be called the 8 note away minor 13, will be 1 fret back unless I cross the fault line, which happens on the bottom 2 strings, the B and the E string, in which case, if I go up 3 strings and cross the fault line, the 8 note away minor 6, which could also be the 8 note away minor 13, will be 2 frets back. All right then. Let's go down. Let's go down a string. If we go down a string, it's going to be out here, so we can shift this forward. Now, if I go down 1 string, I'm on the 1 place where it's going to cross the fault line if I go down 1 string. Any other string I would on, it wouldn't cross the fault line if I go down 1 string. So, so it's going to be an 8 note away minor 6. I don't need to find the inverse distance now, so it's just going to be 5 going this way because it crossed the fault line. 6, 7, 8. So there it is. Let's count it out this way. 5 going this way. 6, 7, 8. So boom, boom to that G right there. So that makes sense. Okay, so that means that if I go down 1 string and cross the fault line, the 8 note away minor 6 will be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets forward. But usually I wouldn't cross the fault line. Even if I was on this tectonic plate down here, I wouldn't cross the fault line. And if I was above it, I certainly wouldn't cross the fault line because I got room on this whole continent so that I wouldn't have to go on it. The continent is not the same thing as a tectonic plate, mind you, but because you could have 1 tectonic plate, like 2 tectonic plates on the same continent, but you get the idea. You get the idea. So so that means that if I go down 1 string, then the 8 note away minor 6 or 8 note away minor 13 will normally be 3 frets forward, which makes sense unless I cross the fault line, which would only happen on the G string, in which case if I go down 1 string and cross the fault line, the 8 note away minor 6, which could also be called the 8 note away minor 13, would be 4 frets forward. Okay then, let's go to the next one, altra vase, the last one, and then we're going to try to get to that 10 note away minor 7 as well. So let's do this. You've got to get a move on. Get a move on, man. If I go down 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 8 note away minor 6 is going to be 5 going this way because we crossed the fault line. 10, 9, 8. All right, let's count it out this way. From here, 5, and then 10, 9, 8. All right, so it's right there, boom. 8 note away minor 6. Okay, so that means if I go down 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 8 note away minor 6 is 1 fret back, but what if I don't cross the fault line? What if I don't? Then I'd be on like one of the top 2 strings. So if I was like up here and I went down 2 strings, it would be here. So normally, if I go down 2 strings, then the 8 note away minor 6, which could also be called the 8 note away minor 13, would be 2 frets back unless I cross the fault line, which would happen on the D and the G string, in which case if I go down 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 8 note away minor 6, which could also be called the 8 note away minor 13, would be 1 fret back. All right, I'll do a fast joke this time before we go to the next one. We've got time. We've got to get going. So when you know something really well, like I know this fretboard, I know this worksheet really well, man. Like not even like the back of my hand, because I know the back of my hand well. Even when it's moving like a jackhammer, I can tell the back of my hand. But I'm talking even more maybe well known than that. I know this Excel worksheet like the inside of my nostril, which I probe every day, looking for a snack. Okay, that's gross. I'm just kidding. Not really though, but not really. So I know this worksheet. I know this Excel worksheet like the inside of my nostril. I know this so well, I know it like the inside of my nostril, which I probe every day. Looking. All right. I don't know. I feel like I could word it better. It needs to be wordsmithed, that one. Needs work. I'll put it in the need work area. All right. Let's move on to the next one. All right. So now we're on the 10 note away, minor 7. So this is the 7 means it's the 7th position in the scale. 10 notes away means it's 10 notes away. And it's going to be a minor 7, which is normal for a minor mode, which I kind of think of as the Locrian as a super minor mode with an added flat 5th, making it not only minor, but a little crazy, little loco, little Locrian loco. But so that's what we would expect. Remember that means that it's kind of interesting that this 10 note away minor 7, remember that the major scale has an 11 note away major 7, and that's going to be the Ionian here, and then the Lydian also has a 11 note away major 7, but all the rest of them basically have, I think all the rest of them have a 10 note away minor 7, which is kind of interesting, because every minor mode, the Dorian, the Phrygian, the Aeolian, has a 10 note away minor 7, and we know that the Mixolydian, which is kind of the bluesy mode, has a 10 note away minor 7. So that's kind of interesting, and that's the one that we can often play with to kind of when you're going back and forth in like a Mixolydian mode or a major blues, you're kind of toying with going from the major 7 to the minor 7, and you can also do that in any of the minor modes as well. We can play with the major 7 and the minor 7. Why? Because if you're in the major scale like the C major, you have the B that's the leading tone that goes home. That's giving you that leading tone. So that's cool, but in the minor modes like the A minor, you don't get that leading tone that goes home, but you can add it, right? So if I want to give so you can always, like if I'm going home to A, I can always add this note. So, and that's going to be that note is the major 7, 11 note away major 7, whereas the minor mode has a minor 7 in it. So it has a minor 7, but you can always hit the major 7 leading home. And it's also just true that I've been playing more and more with the idea of just utilizing more half steps in general. So you can kind of use a half step anytime you want if you're moving in half steps. But that half step in particular is quite useful because it's gonna take you home. Similarly, if we were to play in Locrian, which is basically a minor mode, we have then this being the minor 7, which gives you that kind of bluesy kind of feel, but you can also hit this note to lead you home, just like any other minor scale to the B, and like the Mixolydian, which also has that same dynamic. It has a major 3rd, but it has that minor that 7 in it. Okay, so this is an important interval to me at least. So let's say then that we go 10 notes away. So if I go forward, I can't, it's too far, so I have to look for the inverse distance. So 12 minus 10 would bring me back to here. And by the way, it's the 7, and that means when I do a chord construction, it's still an odd interval. So it's the 1, 3, 5. That's our normal triad, and then we add the 7, which is outside the normal triad. But we didn't make him change his name. We didn't say, hey, look, it's not like the even ones that we don't accept them from chord construction. You have to identify as an even number if you want to be in our group. You might need some surgery even. I don't know. No, but the odd here, this one is still like, it's not part of the normal triad, but it's still an odd number. So it's still it's normal that way. Okay, so we don't need a new name for it. It's just the 7th, but it's a minor 7. Okay, so if we go back one, it's going to be here, back to here. So if I went from A to B, that would be a 2 note away, which would be a major 2nd. But if I went to B to A, 10 note away, minor 7. All right, let's go up 1 now. Let's go up 1 to here. So if I go up above it, I have to look for the inverse distance. So if I'm looking for a 10 note away minor 7, 12 minus 10 is 2. So it's going to be negative 5, 4, 3, 2. So let's go up 1. So it's going to be negative 5. From here, negative 5, 4, 3. Wait a sec. What am I doing here? I went negative. Yeah, no, that's right. What am I talking about? Negative 5, 4, 3, 2. There it is. So if I went from A to B, that would be a 2-note away major second. And remember, the inverse of a minor is a major, and the inverse of a major is a minor. So if I went from the bottom to the top, B to the A, that would be a 10-note away minor 7. So if I go up one string, the 10-note away minor 7 is going to be 1, 2, 3 frets forward unless I cross the fault line. Notice it's a flattened 7, so the major 7 would be out here. And you can always see that because it would be a leading tone going back home, right? That's where the octave is. So if you were kind of messing around with it, so it would lead to here. So it sounds wonky when you're in a minor mode and you throw in a major 7, but it sounds right when you go back home. Right, resolves back home. All right, enough of that. Enough. Just do the thing. So if I go up one string, the 10-note away minor 7 is 3 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which would only happen on the B string. In which case, if I go up one string, then it's going to be right there. It's going to be tighter because this tectonic plate moved the tonic inward. So if I go up one string, the 10-note away minor 7 will be 3 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which only happens on the B string, in which case if I go up one string and cross the fault line, the 10-note away minor 7 will be 2 frets forward. All right, let's go up 2 strings. 2 strings, looking for it here. So if I go up 2 strings, I'm looking for a 10-note away minor 7, have to find the inverse distance because I'm above the note. 12 minus 10 is 2, so it's going to be -5, -10, -11, -12, back to the octave, and then -12, and then, or 0, 1, 2, right? So let's do it this way. This is going to be -5, -10, -11, -12, octave, or 0, and then 1, 2, open. So it's the open A. So if I go from the open A to the B, that would be a 2-note away minor or major second. If I go from B to A, that's going to be a 10-note away minor 7 then. And then the major 7 would be here, leading us back home. So that means if I go up 2 strings, the 10-note away minor 7, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets back unless I cross the fault line, which would happen on these 2 bottom strings, in which case if I go up 2 strings, por ejemplo, it would be here, further distance, because this root got shifted up as this tectonic plate got moved to the right. So the rule is, if I go up 2 strings, the 10-note away minor 7 will be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets back unless I cross the fault line, which would happen on the B or the E string, in which case if I go up 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 10-note away minor 7 will be 5 frets back, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Muy B to the N. Bien. That's how I'm being. Muy bien. All right, so let's say we go up 3 strings. Then it's going to be 10-note away minor 7, inverse distance, 12 minus 10 is 2. So we have 2-note distance, -5, -10, -15. 15 minus 12 brings me down to 3. And then -3 plus 1 is 2. So it's counted out this way. So I'm going to say -5, -10, -15. 15 minus 12 is 3. -3 plus 1 is 2. So from top to bottom, A to B, that would be a 4-note away major third. Hopefully, major third. If I went from B to A, that would be a 10-note away. Why am I not getting a good ring? A 10-note away minor 7. So that means if I go up 3 strings, then the 10-note away minor 7 will be 1 fret forward. Here's the major 7, leading back home again to the B in this case. Unless I cross the fault line, which would happen on the bottom 2 strings. So if I was on like this B and I went 1, 2, 3 up, then I would be on the same fret. So the rule is if I go up 3 strings, then the 10-note away minor 7 will be 1 fret forward unless I cross the fault line, which happens on the bottom 2 strings, the B and the E string, in which case if I go up 3 strings and cross the fault line, the 10-note away minor 7 will be on the same string. Let's go down below the string then. If I go down below the string, we're going to be way out here. That's because the fault line, this is the only place where the fault line is in effect if I go down only one string. So that's going to be going this way. I'm looking for a 10 note away minor 7. I don't need to look for an inverse distance, so it's 10 notes away. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if I counted it here, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So here it is, way over there. So that's going to be, if I go down one string and cross the fault line, the 10 note away minor 7 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Luckily, we don't normally cross the fault line, even if I was on this tectonic plate, on this continent, if you will, because I could still go from here to here, or if I was above, I can go from here to here. So normally it's reachable, which that's the one that's that stretchy position that you could get there, although it's a stretch, which we often see. And like if you put it to the Mixolydian from this G, that's the one that's right. You get that. Way out there on a G, but it's kind of reachable because it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets forward. And if you're playing in a minor, you can kind of reach it out there too, and it'd be a long reach, but you could kind of do it. It's if you stretch your hands out. So even with fairly small hands and a fairly big fretboard like this one. So the rule's going to be that the 10 note away minor 7, if I go down one string, will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets forward, which is basically the maximum stretchy distance typically that you can get unless you cross the fault line, in which case, which only happens on the G string, in which case if you go down one string, then it's possibly out of reach for most hands unless you're higher up on the guitar, because it's going to be the 6 frets forward, which is pretty far up there. But if you're higher up on the guitar, you can even reach that one with normal hands as well. All right, let's go down one more round. Let's go down one more round. We're going to go down to this one. So if I go down 3 strings and cross the fault line, it's going to be -5 and 10 right there. So let's count it out here. So from here to here, -5, 10, boom, boom. So if I go down 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 10 note away minor 7 will be 1 fret forward. It's possibly more recognizable when I don't cross the fault line, which would happen on the E or the A string, because we're usually playing, we're usually often measuring from these 2 strings where you get that shape. That's possibly the most common shape that many people recognize for a 10 note away minor 7, which is distorted, of course, on the D and the G string when we cross the fault line. So that means that 10 note away minor 7, when I go down 2 strings, the 10 note away minor 7 will be on the same fret unless I cross the fault line, which would happen if I start from the D or the G string, in which case if I go down 2 strings and cross the fault line, the 10 note away minor 7 will be 1 fret forward. All right, let's stop it there. I won't even do a joke to end it off. This has been we had to do 3 there, so we'll stop it on that one.